Hey guys, welcome back to Evan Von Doom's channel. That's me, Evan Von Doom. This is how I start every video, actually, in case you were wondering. This is not a new thing I'm trying out. And it's not like I just forgot how I start videos, so I just started rambling off or something. That'd be crazy and totally unprofessional. So I actually just got back from Fantastic Four, and I really liked it. I thought it was a very good movie, a good superhero flick. Now I'm in a weird position, because my first comic ever was a Fantastic Four comic. I've told this story a few times, from podcasts to probably on this channel. But one Christmas my dad gave me a couple of comics. There was Fantastic Four comics and Spider-Man comics from the Marvel Age collection. The retelling of classic stories with a little bit of a modern twist, by which I mean a lot of them were more manga inspired because manga was being more popularized at the time. And Fantastic Four was the first comics I really picked up in that collection, and immediately it stuck with me. There was something so special about this group of friends and family that is really just going on super sci-fi adventures. I didn't realize it at the time, but I guess I was just like really always science-based in what I enjoyed. So going on these like semi-pulpy adventures, before I even knew what pulpy meant, was really my cup of tea, and it really kind of solidified what I was looking for in stories going forward. So focus on character dynamics, focus on bigger bombastic stories and relating them back to the characters. Those are the kind of things I was always looking for. And the MCU specifically always struggled with that for me. Even movies I liked, like The Winter Soldier, there was still like this kind of flop sometimes on exactly what they were trying to say. I think most recently, Thunderbolts did a really good job of reconnecting the story to a central theme. There's this theme about these characters who feel like they're losers, they feel like they're missing out on something that they're supposed to be a grander idea of who they actually are. And it's really rooted in this trauma that each of them are feeling, and they're all just perpetuating this cycle of grief onto each other and onto their family and friends, and they just become assholes because of it. And the whole movie is just circled around this idea of loneliness and self-deprecation, to the point that the main villain is also feeling these themes, and it's the way that they resolve spoiler, sorry, but it's also the way they resolve the inner conflict of the movie. This is not a Thunderbolts review, but I really liked Thunderbolts, and while a lot of people were saying that it's like this big, grand, welcome back MCU that we know and love, I don't feel that way exactly. I think there's still some flaws in the movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it's one of those MCU movies that I can see myself revisiting later, versus a lot of them that I just forget about as soon as I stop watching them. And I'm also at the point, just to get all my biases out the way, I'm also at the point where the MCU movies are just kind of not working for me. I tuned in for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but now those are over, so I kind of just like handpick which ones I want to watch. Like I didn't watch Ant-Man, I didn't watch New Captain America, and there's other reasons we don't have to go into for why I didn't watch New Captain America, but I'm a lot more comfortable now than I was as a kid at just picking what movies I want to waste my time on, basically. And that leads us all the way back to the Fantastic Four. I was on the fence about watching Fantastic Four because just personally, I knew they were going to tease Dr. Doom at the end. Like, no one had to tell me. I don't know if there was a leak or anything, but in my heart of hearts, I was like, oh, they're going to tease Dr. Doom, and I'm not going to be happy about that. So I definitely went into this movie with a chip on my shoulder. What made me decide to actually watch it is the trailers, to be honest. There was a big focus in the trailers on the more pulpy nature of these characters, how they're rooted in the science community, how they're a family over everything else, and that I felt like they were really understanding the root of these characters, and even seeing something as small as Ben Grimm on Yancey Street near a temple, like something like that really just kind of resonate with me. Where I was like, okay, yeah, they get the ideas of these characters, not just on a surface level like Captain America's really nice, but more on a deeper level, like Ben Grimm is a character rooted in his faith on multiple levels. So that leads us to the movie. I liked the movie. So the trailer won me over, and the whole like Silver Surfer stuff looked really cool in the trailer, so I was going in with big expectations and just knowing I was going to be disappointed in the end credit scene, whatever it may be. And it turns out I was right about a lot of things, and wrong about some. Kind of, I don't know. So without further ado, this is my review of Fantastic Four. Now, as you could tell from my name and this statue over here, I'm a big Fantastic Four fan. I already said that in the intro and everything, but I can't reiterate that enough. I'm a huge fan of these characters. I love the Mark Waid run. I love the Hickman run like everyone else does. I love the new Ryan North stuff. I'm even a fan of Mark Millar stuff, which everyone else hates. And I'll also be honest that I'm mostly rooted in the modern mythology of the characters. I haven't read that much Lee Kirby Fantastic Four outside of like some select issues. And I haven't also read a lot of the Byrne stuff. just all a bunch of piecemeal things, and then some things from the 90s and early 2000s I also read, but again, that area is a little bit more up in the air. So I'm coming in as a fan, someone who's been a long-term fan, who these characters mean a lot to me. So again, going to the movie, that was at the heart of where I was really coming from. But again, there's just this big cloud over my head of, oh, this is another MCU movie. Are they gonna nail it? And I think just off jump, they did nail it. Just overall review is that it's a very, very good, if not great movie, and I had a great time watching it. Again, like Thunderbolts, I don't think I'm in the bandwagon of saying that this is a movie that's gonna revolutionize the MCU. It might. I think it really comes down to where they want to take this franchise going forward. The beginning roots of the MCU were really rooted in, oh, we're all building up to like this thing, and this movie is so standalone. There's a big reason it's standalone. I don't think it's a spoiler, but it doesn't take place in the main timeline of the MCU, so there's no crossovers in this. This is just a Fantastic Four movie focused in a world where only the Fantastic Four in the 1960s are the defenders of Earth. And I think that was a great choice for this movie. It gave a lot of opportunities to focus specifically on the Fantastic Four and how they interact with their world. It's also a little bit different of a take for the Fantastic Four in general, because so often we get this idea of the Fantastic Four are these celebrity figures, but still Ben Grimm is kind of like the outcast, like everyone's still afraid of. But in this movie, they really go the celebrity route. Like Reed Richards was successful in his attempt to make them a celebrity brand, so much that Ben Grimm himself isn't seen as this like terrible monster to avoid. People approach him on the street, kids cheer for him to lift a car. I think it's a very great and fantastic I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not like these other comic nerds. I'm different. But it was fantastic. I think it was an amazing choice to really focus in on these characters being celebrities, and it really does benefit Ben Grimm's image. But there's still that underlying feeling from the character that he's still dealing with this idea of, I'm not like these other people. I can't do the same intermingling that everyone else can. I'm a standout. People can't love me in the same way. And there's a lot of image reflection from the jokes from Johnny Storm that are a lot more supportive than you would expect from a Johnny Storm-Ben Grimm dynamic. And also him interacting with his love interest, who is not Alicia, which was a big disappointment to me, but they replaced Alicia with a Jewish character, so kind of a win-win, you know? Either you get my favorite love interest in the Fantastic Four mythos, or you get Ben Grimm dating a nice Jewish girl, so hey, what can I say? I'm not Jewish. I don't really have a horse in the race in terms of like Ben Grimm being the perfect ideal Jewish representation, but I also understand that Ben Grimm is a Jewish character with deep Jewish roots. And I think it's marvelous that they actually took the time to give him those deep Jewish roots and even basically give Jack Kirby a cameo. So I gotta give the movie kudos for that. It's something that a lot of movies just try to really distance himself. Like most recently, Moon Knight tried to like do the both worlds thing where they're like, oh, we're doing a Jewish character with an actor that's not actually technically Jewish. And the way they really try to smooth that over was by having one scene in a flashback where he wears a kippah. And I was like, all right, just don't do it at that point. Like just eat your grub at that point if you just don't care that this character is supposed to be Jewish, you know? That's getting to the woods of something that I'm not equipped to talk about. But it's the small details like that that really build the world out. And the world's built out in different ways too. Like New York City, for example. The city has a more futuristic touch. It almost kind of feels like it's a very 1960s futurism, almost that metropolis feel that we didn't actually get in the Superman film. So it's funny that we got these two movies that have pretty similar messages too, we'll find out. And this is the one that did like the metropolis city being a 1960s idea of the futurism, while, you know, Superman did like cool Chicago. But going back to the characters, because that's really where the heart of this movie is again. Also similar to the Superman movie, I feel like the characters really sell what makes this movie work. I already talked about Ben Grimm. I think all the characterizations in general though are really well thought out. Everyone seems to have a role in the family. I think surprisingly Ben has the least amount to do overall, but no one really has a moment where I'm just like, they should be doing something different. And everyone also gets their like, oh, I have an idea moment. Johnny isn't just a dumbass this entire movie like he is in every other single goddamn movie or comic he's in, besides like Hickman and Ryan North's comics. He's really thoughtful, he's really smart, he gets overlooked still, and he does say dumb things, and he's kind of going for that boyish charm thing. But he's not just like this brick idiot who is basically useless in the entire movie. I think he did a great job of balancing what the audience is expecting versus what the character is actually like, especially in more recent comics, and also what the heart of the character can bring out in someone in a world like this, in this world where everything is kind of built around optimism and futurism and looking forward. What does someone who usually is more laid back and isn't interested in learning? And I think that's what we see in this Johnny Storm, and I think it's really well done. Reed Richards is also really well done. That's a character that I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about, specifically because of his treatment in the Civil War comic. He kind of comes off as this cold character that's like the evil version of autism that a lot of people have this notion of in our society. I also want to be very clear, in the comics, Reed Richards is not labeled autistic. However, a lot of readers read him that way. Read. And I also always read him that way, but I never read him that way because of some of the reasons in the comics or that people give. Like, one of the things that I see a lot of people point to is this comic panel where he says he tries to cure his own autism. And I think that's something that's dangerous to really point to be like, oh, this character's autistic and wants to get rid of it. I think that's a bad example and just like a real big disservice to autism, which isn't something that needs to be cured. But he does have some mannerisms that I think a lot of people that are autistic do see as coding. And a lot of times I think that's not purposeful, but there are times, like with Ryan North's most recent comic, he does make it a purposeful stance to make the character come off autistic, and he's trying to do that in a healthy way. But I do want to again make this clear that Marvel does not have an official stance on if Reed Richards is or is not autistic. There is no canon definition or defining label of him being autistic, and I only want to make that clear because that doesn't excuse a lack of autistic representation. I think people like to say, oh, this character's coded autistic, or this character's coded this way, or acts this way, therefore he is autistic, and that's good enough. But I think it's just a disservice in any type of minority group to be like, oh, he's close enough to that without having a label, so like, you guys should shut up and take it. I think it's great that people see him this way, and I think it's great that people are seeing themselves in him because of his coding. But again, I don't think that excuses a lack of representation, is my only stance on that. With all that being said, in the movie, he is also coded that way, I think, and I think it comes off, again, pretty healthy. There's small moments that you see where you're kind of like, oh, this is definitely what they're going for, and I don't think there's ever a moment where it feels demonized or like it's a joke. There's definitely playful moments of being like, hey, focus up type of deal, but it's never played off as like, hey, you're dumb for not focusing on this or anything like that. So I think the characterization for Reed's really well done. I think his arc's really well done. I don't think everyone in this movie has a big arc. Like, I think specifically Reed is the one going through an arc, and maybe Sue, but for the most part, they're actually kind of static characters in this movie, with the plot being where the arc really is happening. And the plot is a lot more a general arc for us more than the characters, which is interesting. The star of the four is definitely Sue Storm, and I think that's great. Sue is a character in the comics who, for a long time, doesn't get a lot to do. She's considered the mother of the group, and she gets kind of treated like a 60s mother in the sense of, hey, do this, now get the fuck out of here, lady. I'll give you a good smack, like that type of deal. Especially under Stan Lee and John Byrne, there's a lot of like Sue not getting a lot to do, and people will point to like Hickman's run and be like, look, she gets to be like the queen of an underground city, therefore she's doing a lot. And then I'll be like, all right, name another thing she does in that run, or name a time that we actually see her utilize that, and there's really not a lot. That's not to say all these writers are sexist, except for like Stan Lee and John Byrne are definitely sexist, but whatever. But just to point out that there is this standard of Reed, Johnny, and Ben kind of getting all the stories, and Sue being almost forgotten, except for that she's a powerhouse, so they throw her in there every once in a while to like go, and that's about it. There's something I wasn't afraid of for this movie because the marketing really had Sue being almost a leader position, and the movie does have her in that position in a good amount of scenes. I would definitely say that Reed is probably still considered the leader, but Sue does get a lot of decision-making moments, and there's a lot of moments where Reed and her come to the same conclusion around the same time, and she's the one that gets to say, all right, here's how we're actually going to do it, or here's what we're really going to do. So I think Sue gets a lot to do here, which is great. Everyone gets a lot to do here, and they all have great chemistry. I really buy that this is a family dynamic that's happening. It really does feel like they're all characters with their own history and histories that intermingle with each other. I think a lot of the jokes actually didn't land for me specifically, but the humor was still there, and it never felt like it was a bad thing that the jokes didn't land for me. It just felt more like some of these things were like, oh, this is humorous. If I was a part of this family, I would also be laughing at this, but I'm not. So I'm kind of just like, hey guys, I'm also here. Getting cucked by the Fantastic Four, that's crazy work. Yeah, also shout out to Vanessa Kirby's husband who has to watch this movie, like holy shit. And also the whole press tour where they're just like fondling each other the whole time. Jesus Christ. But that's acting, baby. And then we get to the villains, and I think they're also really well done. I think a lot of superhero movies now are trying to do the thing where like the villains get this huge emotional arc and everything. And with Galactus, you don't get that. With Silver Surfer, you definitely do. The Silver Surfer story is exactly what you're kind of expecting at this point. Nothing wrong with that. It's really well done, and Julia Garner does a great job portraying Silver Surfer. This is another one of those situations where a lot of guys on Twitter and TikTok got really upset because a woman was playing their favorite character, Silver Surfer. And it turned out not to be a big deal at all. It's the same exact story you expect, and she does a great job. So I don't know, fuck off. And Galactus is really intimidating. I think together they're extremely intimidating, but Galactus alone is super intimidating. Like when you first see this guy, the characters back up. They're so intimidated by this guy's stature alone. Just aura. And I don't think his motivations are sympathetic, but you understand where he's coming from. And I think that's better for a character. Like for villains, you should understand where they're coming from. You don't need to empathize with them. You don't need to sympathize with them. I'm kind of tired of that route, and I'm glad the movie just went like, hey, I get why you're doing this. That's fucked up. Let's kill this guy. Let's stop this guy right here. And there's one scene where the characters literally say, kill him! Like... Like they like scream, kill that person, like they kill her before she gets us, you know? And I was like, holy shit, you guys are supposed to be the heroes. You're talking about, yeah, shoot them out of the sky now, Johnny, now! So it's really a great time. So that's like really the highlights of the movie, I wanna say, is like there's a very specific characterization. They're really introducing to this world and characters and how they interact with one another, and you kind of really get what the message in the movie is around the 75% mark. I think it really works what it's trying to say and where it goes. This is a movie that's showing a world where superheroes really do have a huge effect on the population, how they think, what they do with their lives, and the superheroes in this world aren't just some militarized police force that go around fixing everyone's problems. They find solutions for problems we don't even know are happening. And it's not about militarization, it's not about policing, it's about bettering everyone together. And so I really like that messaging for this movie. Like I think that the Fantastic Four aren't just superheroes, they are family. And the whole message of this movie is that we are all family. The entire human race is a family. When we work together, we do amazing things. Some people are gonna call that hope core, I think. I think that's just what superhero movies are and should have always been. I don't think we ever needed superhero movies to be ashamed of what they were or to try to have this balancing of being a neo superhero movie where everything has to be a critique of the superhero genre. I think we do need superheroes to inspire us a little bit. We just have to also be able to draw the line of being like, hey, we're inspired, let's actually do something and not just take exactly what they're saying to do or what, you know, our corporations are telling us to do. But we can wear an S on our chest and still, you know, think Disney sucks. Meanwhile, I'm giving them money. I don't know. It's a weird world we live in. I think it's also interesting how on accident Superman and Fantastic Four were kind of in conversation with one another. Superman was a movie that said, hey, we're all human. And then Fantastic Four is a movie that says, hey, every human is part of the same family. Like, we're in this together. So it's a really good double whammy. This is honestly just a great month for blockbusters in general. This is a great month for superhero movies in general. Even me, papa. I think it's also interesting that this movie didn't hit me in the heart the way I thought it was. I kind of left Superman feeling like I was walking on clouds, and then a few days later it kind of dissipated a little bit, but I still had this fondness for the movie and this energy about me thinking about the movie. And it led to a lot of passionate debates with my friends about the movie. For Fantastic Four, I feel like I don't have that same passion in me. I feel like I left thinking like, I want to see more movies like this. I think this is the movie that the MCU needs to inspire to be more like. There was clearly a lot more creative control from the director, which we want. There was more character focus, which we want. And there was like nothing teasing the next movie until the fucking end credits. Now here's a spoiler, like just spoiler warning. I'm gonna talk spoilers real quick because I gotta. I didn't like the end credits scene. I think everyone else will like it, but I'm just so bitter still about Robert Downey Jr. being Dr. Doom that any time I see Dr. Doom in anything now that's MCU related, I was kind of like, I could go on a whole rant about why I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is the right choice for Doom, and I probably will in the future, but it's a personal choice. It's also a choice that I feel like could have been easily avoided if we actually cared about the character of Dr. Doom more than we cared about making money. Because this casting decision really just came down to money, and that doesn't sit well with me, especially when it's an opportunity to spotlight a new or up-and-coming Roma actor. So again, I'm not gonna get to a huge thing about it. This is just my personal opinion on it, and my personal opinion is always right, and you're wrong if you disagree with me. But Robert Downey Jr. just doesn't seem like the right choice for Doom. Time will tell if I'm wrong, but I'll never know because I'm not watching this next fucking movie with him in it. But I hope the MCU looks at this and says, oh, we can make more movies where we let the creative directors have more creative control, and we just let the movies speak for themselves instead of trying to sell this massive franchise again. Start small, look smaller, and look for people that have personal things they want to say with these characters, and also want to spotlight the characters and the comics. I didn't say it earlier because it's also kind of a spoiler, but there's a Jack Kirby cameo in this movie, and I thought that was really fantastic to see this creator who, like, historically has been neglected. A lot of people point to Jack Kirby and say, like, yeah, we really love that guy, and then never gets like an actual ounce of respect, especially in the history of Marvel, where his work was swept under the rug by Stan Lee and co. This is more of a Kirby Crackle moment, so if you want to hear more about that, I would suggest talking to Kirby at Comic Crackle. But for me, I love comics, and I think this was another movie, just like Superman, that wasn't ashamed of being a comic book movie. Comic book movies are nice, they're fun, and they can be cool, and it really just comes down to telling a good story instead of trying to make the most connections to make more money down the line. And I genuinely mean this from the bottom of my heart. Fuck the Russo brothers. That's pretty much all I gotta say about the Fantastic Four movie. Again, I thought it was great. It's definitely, I think, one of the best, if not the best, Marvel movie. I think maybe Black Panther 1 and 2 beat it for me. But in terms of how it was made and what it was trying to do, I think it succeeded on all fronts. I heard there was deleted scenes, and you can kind of see maybe where they were supposed to be, but I really don't know how you fit more into this movie and make it still cohesive. You can maybe expand on like the villain roles in some of these moments, but I don't know. I think I liked it exactly how it was, and I'm not one of those people that's gonna cry for a director's cut or something. Let me know in the comments what you thought, if you liked the movie, if it worked, if it didn't, if it was fantastic, if it was just amazing, or if it was just bad. Maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you're a weirdo. Maybe you like bad movies and this was too good for you. I don't know. Could happen. Could. Anyway. Bye.